Raul, it's a pleasure to meet you. We've
Likewise.
been emailing for a very long time now. We got introduced when you launched on Product Hunt, the most highly anticipated upcoming page on Product Hunt with 55,000 subscribers.
Yep.
Well done.
Thank you.
How did you get so much demand and interest for the product?
Well, that's a good question. I wish there was a simple one-line answer. I think if there would be, it would be as simple as word of mouth.
Yeah.
We didn't do a tremendous amount to promote this in any way. People, I think, just really have this desire for a significantly better email experience. People aren't in love with Gmail anymore. And when they saw the promise of Superhuman, they were like, yes, I want that.
Yeah, the comparison, I've seen one person on Gmail who is like a machine from CoinList, and he uses it like a machine, and I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
And then when I saw that's what Superhuman feels like, but for everyone.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
It's to, in a sense, democratize productivity. So there are those people like that guy who are probably so good at creating workflows and having the right amount of discipline to get through that email in just the right way to make them really, really fast.
Yeah.
We want to take that and make that possible for everybody.
Yeah, but if it looked physically draining. There was just a lot of movement.
Yeah.
And two, I've seen a lot of people do email. I've never seen anyone at that level. But really, that's what Superhuman feels like. It's just but very kind of calm and subtle, and just from the way I've been using the product for months now as a paying customer. At first, I was like, yeah, Angels is gonna pay for it. Why not? Thanks for the 3 months, Angels. But I can't go back. I mean, if I left Angels by this point, I would definitely pay for it. And the time it saves, it becomes a no-brainer given how much time it saves, and for people to value their time, yeah, it's a no-brainer in that sense. And then particularly when accidentally using Gmail, when you open a tab and then replying on it, it feels like the most clunky experience, which is quite different. I've tried so many email clients by this point. I mean, email clients are very popular on Product Hunt. They always do well. They look nice. They do the same thing usually, maybe with a little twist. I've tried many of them. This one is hands down the best one, but it's like objectively the best one. I think everyone who's tried it would say that, and I love what's it called, the Wall of Love?
Oh yeah, the Wall of Love on Twitter.
Yeah. So the Wall of Love on Twitter is a collection of tweets of customers who are, and it's all customers because you get like a month free maybe.
No, we don't even do a free trial.
Right, so it's all paying customers to get access, and then everyone is just in love with the product. I've never seen anyone say a negative thing about the product. I assume you have some people churn, of course, with any product, but I've never seen a negative word being said about the product. So, and I've seen overwhelming. That's where the word of mouth comes in.
Yes.
You just want to tweet about it because it's a delightful experience that makes you more productive, and you want to tell. That's just that's been my experience, and it was not that I need the approval of others for it, but it's been reassuring to see that many other people and friends and people I don't know, like on that Twitter collection of tweets, that have similar experiences.
It's something that we very deliberately engineer for. At the very start of the company, we did this exercise that I think many companies do, which is, what do we care about? What are our values? And we wrote down 6 values that are very dear to us. There is one that's the most special. It's more important than any of the rest, which is create delight.
Yes.
And that is the whole point of the company. Hopefully you feel it in the email client, and people will feel it in all of the other products that we make after this as well.
Yeah, you know what? At first, this was actually a feedback that I gave you at the beginning, where now I'm appreciating more. But that after, when you archive, pretty much I feel like I'm just archiving or kind of processing email very, very quickly. I just go through my inbox very quickly with it, using it all through the keyboard. But that was I won't say negative, but that was a feedback I gave you at first. I'm like, I get sucked into the email, and I have like more important emails that I want to get to, but I get into like a zone of I go one by one.
Yes.
Now it's more because now it's just a thing. I know I'm just gonna get through the whole thing in like 10, 15 minutes, like maybe 2, 3 times a day. But at first it was too good in a way of putting putting me to the zone. Where like I have other more important ones I need to get to, and
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, it's obviously designed for that. Like what you show on the screen, where you led to next after each email, what you're hiding, like what you're not seeing, and yeah, it's like not unnecessarily. That's just like the Gmail, for example. It shows you like unread emails in bold in a folder or something, which like that means you're gonna go to that folder and find it just to get the thing going. There's none of that like random stuff on. It's just really well designed product. I would say.
Thank you.
Why aren't you publicly launched yet? It's clear. I mean, it's clearly a better product and it's very much ready to see the light of day. Why are you not more broadly available?
So I have this philosophy around what a launch is and when you do it. I think that startups should only launch for one of 3 reasons. Either you need more capital, or you need to hire, or you need more sales leads. We're very fortunate to be in a position where we don't need any of those 3 things. And so we have the entire team focused week on week just on consistent user growth and everything that goes into supporting that, which obviously is a huge effort. But yeah, we'll
do you want to talk about the onboarding? Every time I've tried to get someone on, so they are very responsive to all feedback emails. Raul, the CEO, everyone on the team, they respond within like less than 24 hours. And then within a few days, they've usually already like implemented something, or they let me know if something I've suggested is implemented. You rarely respond to referrals to very relevant potential customers who want to try it and pay you for it. Not even a response. So I'm not looking at it as like unresponsive. It's more like you have a long list of people that are waiting to try it. Can you talk about that and how you're onboarding people, and what I'm guessing is you're like doing the scaling the unscalable in terms of like onboarding. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think this is a good example of Paul Graham famously wrote an essay a few years ago about do things that don't scale.
Yeah.
And the more refined version of that would be figure out what the interesting non-scalable thing is about your business. And for us right now, the interesting non-scalable thing is the way that we onboard people. As you know, it's a very high-touch process, and our users end up loving it. And as a result, we've had thousands of conversations with users over the last years. Which is more customer development than I think any other startup in our space has ever done. Yeah. It really gives us a tremendous amount of insight into how people feel about the product and what it is that they want.
Have you found that to reduce churn? Like because you're explaining to people, well, you're learning about the customer, but you're also showing them the full range of features and kind of doubling down on things they specifically tell you they care about, and you really show them how to do that. Have you seen that reduce churn?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
It achieves a number of things. All of the customer development stuff. So we learn what's most important, but it also creates an experience. It helps users feel heard. It helps users feel wanted. And you've experienced the feedback loop where you're like, hey, I found a bug, or I found a problem, or you have a really cool idea, and we have a work stream in the organization, meaning there is a percentage of the engineering team that is dedicated to working on those things that come out of those conversations. And people love that.
No, that's important. Usually when the companies I've worked at, when we ship features, they're shipped, and then maybe you get to fixing stuff later. But it's very intentionally from the like fixing things. Like everything needs to be perfect. That's what it feels like. There's not an acceptable level of kind of something that doesn't work. It's gonna get fixed if you've pointed it out. And there's very few. I don't think I've mentioned anything in a while actually. It just works. So yeah. Can you talk about the iOS app, which I've been on it for a while, but I've only recently started using. And can we talk about that?
Sure.
How yeah, it feels like you're in Messenger basically. It feels like it doesn't feel like email. It feels more like a conversation.
Absolutely. Very much designed for that upfront. We were looking at the trend in emails, and it turns out that more than 50% of the emails that we send and receive, look at the thread, for example, that scheduled this conversation, more than half those emails are one-liners.
Yeah.
They look like text message. Yet the user interfaces that we have to interact with our email still assume we're like, dear Neve, comma, enter. No, here's my really long paragraph.
Yeah.
Best, and sometimes you have to send those emails, but many times you don't.
Right.
And so for me, it's one of the most interesting things about our business is the user interface design challenge. How do you build a UI that naturally segues between letter form, long form email, and one-liners?
Yep.
And that's one of the things that we're trying to do with the iPhone app.
So 3 things related to that. One, on the shorter side of emails, I've only gotten your phone number last week because one, I didn't want to ask because you have an email client, so how dare I change the technology we're using to communicate. But there was no need for it because it's just very natural. And he happened to be out of the office, so we had to finally resort to phone calls for a meeting. And then on the longer front, which is especially over the weekend, usually when I send in a longer email, I do it in Evernote, and then I copy pasted it to Superhuman. Superhuman, I do it in Superhuman, and then I maybe do a backup version of my own notes to Evernote. Fantastic. But it's a very stable product where you feel very comfortable putting into Superhuman. And okay, I guess let's go over some of the features. The saving, nothing's just gonna get deleted. It's always gonna be there across every device. Little things like that in the back of your mind that you don't have to think about, where in other email clients I've always had to think about. And then the offline experience is very important. And then not the most important, but so Raul previously co-founded a company called Reportive, which is very, very popular to this day, right? Chrome extension that LinkedIn acquired a few years ago. And then now you're working how many years you're doing?
Superhuman, I have been doing for about 3 years myself.
3 years. So ever since he left LinkedIn, he's been right back to email, but expanding on it. So Reportive, that technology is a very core part of Reportive of Superhuman, both in the Mac app and the iPhone app, and it feels weird not to have that so what Reportive does is it gives you context about the people that you're talking to. You just kind of hover over the email address, and then you know all their social profiles, what they do, their recent tweets. It's little things like that just give you so much more context of that has helped me with the first line of emails so many times of what to mention just by seeing the recent tweets or being able to go to their social profiles. But it's all right there, both it's a complete experience around it. I feel like I'm hyping it up too much, but it's really not.
Well, thank you. This conversation reminds me of some of the happiest moments for me back in the Reportive days, where and that thing was downloaded millions of times. So we could just go and walk down the streets of San Francisco into a cafe, and someone would be doing their email in Gmail, of course, with Reportive down the right-hand side. Yeah. And I would, we would wear our hoodies or our sweatshirts, and they had the logo on them. And people would always stop us and say, "Hey, did you guys make this thing?" And we're like, "Yeah, we made that thing." And then they tell me a story like that, where we helped someone get a new job or hire somebody or make this incredible sale. Yeah. And it's really exciting to us to be able to start to deliver those kinds of experiences again to people today.
Yeah, Reportive was a universally loved, very big I've known about it for years.
It's old.
4 years, yeah.
2010, January, that was when we wrote the first lines of code.
It's something that if you haven't used it, you should add it. You should also try to get on Superhuman, but it's something that is, if you see someone in Gmail not using, that's the first thing that you just add that so you have a little.
That's right, yeah.
And that's a fraction of Superhuman. So that part of it is you nailed it again, and then there's every other part is also improved. So, but it's worth it just for that. I'm saying to have that in a Mac app as opposed to having a browser extension, which Chrome gets a little heavy with things.
It does, and that was actually one of the things I wanted to address. So I didn't jump straight into building Superhuman after LinkedIn, but I took a bunch of time off. But during that time, I was thinking really hard, and Conrad, who's our CTO, and Conrad was part of the Reportive team as well, have some measure of guilt around what happened with that whole ecosystem. So I don't know if you remember Gmail back in the day when it first came out, but it was really, really fast, and it did one thing, and it did it very, very well.
Yeah.
And over the years, people started adding stuff to it. And Reported was the first Gmail browser extension
Oh, wow.
to really get millions of users and adoption approaching mainstream,
Right.
Which was fine. But then lots of companies started to copy that blueprint. And now if you were to go look at a hardcore Gmail user today, they probably have 3, maybe 4 browser extensions just in Gmail.
Yep.
And so if you think about your battery life, your memory, your CPU, all of those are being rapidly drained because you've taken this aging product, Gmail, that doesn't have an API, it doesn't really have a plugin architecture, and you've added onto it all of these other things that are just pinging the page continuously, which makes me sad. That is not the beautiful products that we had in mind in 2010 when we made Reported. It was not the beautiful email experience that we wanted people to have.
Yeah.
And that's what Superhuman is designed to be.
It is. Okay, last thing, I guess we've covered most of the things. How would you, is Superhuman for everyone? Like, describe your ideal customer. Who is this meant for?
Yeah.
Because people aren't used to paying for email, and many probably shouldn't. But there's a very large group of people that live in email and that could use the productivity. So describe your ideal customer.
Well, the critical thing is Superhuman is for those people who need to be responsive in their inbox. They're probably spending more than 3 hours a day doing email. Superhuman will help them get that down to significantly less than 3 hours. They'll get through their inbox twice as fast. They're probably receiving more than 100 emails a day. They're sending more than 50 emails a day. I liken it to this. Let's say you're a creative artist. If you're serious about your craft, you're going to use Photoshop. If you're less serious, you're a hobbyist, you'll use one of the cheaper options that are out there. And those are some very good pieces of software. But there is a standard that anyone who's a serious professional in that space uses. Superhuman is like Photoshop in that analogy.
And there is an email, but so has that not existed to that quality in email yet? Because everyone uses email, and there's a very large group of people that use it as the way you just described. What do they use? Outlook or Gmail, or one of the two, basically? Right?
Well, it depends geographically where you are. I think here in Silicon Valley, almost everyone's on G Suite or Google Apps. The reason why it hasn't happened is twofold. Number one, and this comes to what we were talking about earlier with regards to some other email clients.
Yeah.
Number one, it takes 2 years just to build a stable, solid infrastructure, an email app that doesn't break, that sends emails that look like what you wrote them, that doesn't crash. That is surprisingly hard. And we're email veterans. We've been doing this for nearly a decade now.
Yeah.
And it still wasn't easy for us. So number one, I think that bar scares off most teams. Number two, the investment community especially believed you could not charge people for a prosumer email experience. And I just believe that you could. And it is turning out to be true. You can charge for it because if you delight people, they'll happily pay.
Okay, that wraps up. Thank you, Ro.
Thank you.